Greetings, society. My name is Allie Morris, and today, on the Mad K podcast, we are going to talk about POC representation and with a hint of racism.
You got through it.
Yay! Okay, in my research, I first separated some shows and movies that can be seen as good representation of people of color and bad representation. And just personally for me, it's mostly surrounded on black people and African American people because that's where I can decipher good and bad representation. Because I'm just black. I am not interracial. So
hey, I'm right here.
I said me. It's not about you. You're next.
I know.
And that's the end of the podcast. Make sure you catch Station. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Look at the Mac.
So first, in bad representation, we have Phineas and Ferb. Does anyone have anything to say about Phineas and Ferb?
I remember watching the show a lot as a kid. I remember thinking I don't know. I remember it was very at the time, I think it was a decent stepping stone because I think it was I don't know. I definitely didn't see myself in anyone in the show.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna add something. We're talking about bad representation and how it pertains to Phineas and Ferb.
Actually, I think with Phineas and Ferb, I'm not presenting it as specifically bad. It's just there's barely any.
Yeah.
Because from a sociological perspective, Phineas and Ferb is a show about basically cis white men in STEM.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And that's just the basis of it. And I am a Dan Povenmire stan, personally. However, he doesn't, for the most part, incorporate people of color in his work. And I wrote a few people who are people of color in the show, and it's made obvious. So if you watch the show, you will know these names. Baljeet, the Fireside Girls, Stacy and her family, Isabella, Stacy's boyfriend, and that's about it. And maybe some extras here and there, and guest stars as well. But that's about it. And this is the preface I wanted to add. So not everything is going to be made for everyone, and we have to recognize that with not just shows and movies, but with just looking at everything. So not everything is made for black people, not everything is made for all these different types of people. Sometimes creators are only thinking about the one audience they're trying to target, and they don't go into the details of that, race, gender, sexuality, age, disability, mental illness, etc. So another bad representation overall, just to encompass that, the one I wrote down was Disney Channel / Disney XD, and am I saying the representation is bad? I'm gonna say for the most part, yes. Specifically because when they do have POC characters, they do tend to play into the stereotypes about said races. And I don't think a lot of people realize this one, but the key one I wrote down is Lab Rats. Because
I didn't watch the show. Could you give me a bit of that?
Okay. So Lab Rats is about these kids who have bionic powers, right? Except here's the thing, they're white kids. But the main guy is a little black guy named Leo, and they're always bullying him because he doesn't have any powers. Yeah, and I was
that's a little.
Yeah. So I was watching the show one day and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. And so I don't think that's the one people recognize a lot. And in the show, not to spoil it for you, but he does get powers, but not as many as the white people receive. If anyone else wants to add any bad representation.
Go. Okay, so you may or may not know this show called Fairly Odd Parents.
Yes, I do.
Was decent in the first part of it, but after that it very severely went downhill. Very, very severely. I'm just saying. Anyways, that's not the point. So, there's AJ and Chester. Chester is the hick white person, and AJ is the really smart, black person. But he's also the only, I'm pretty sure, like, one of the very few, like, African American people in the entire show. And then, other than, like, and you think of, like, POC representation, there's another guy, I forgot his name, but, like,
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
yeah, so his only shtick is that he speaks in an accent.
Oh, Juandísimo?
Not him.
Oh.
But he's one of, I mean, that guy too, he's a whole nother story.
I think that's a stereotypical, like, Latin lover.
Yeah. But no, it's one of, like, Timmy's friends. And I think he's Indian, I'm not sure. But, like, he talks like this, and, like, the stereotypical thing. And it's not bad to have an accent, but it's also, like, that's his only thing. He also, like, doesn't, like, there's not a lot of skin tone there, just saying. Like, a little whitewashed, if you ask me. And I'm trying to, like, I guess if, like, you could say, oh, it's not meant to be representation, but then it's like, well, then what's with the accent? So, I don't know. That show is something else.
Anyone else?
There's so many I can name for bad representation. I think Mariam brings up a really good point about certain Indian characters in TV shows, because, like, okay, we think of, like, Baljeet, that one character from Fairly Odd Parents, the guy from The Simpsons.
Wait, Fairly Odd Parents?
Was it Fairly Odd Parents?
No, it's Phineas and...
Oh yeah, no, Phineas and
Baljeet, I know Baljeet is from Phineas and Ferb. I was
AJ.
referring, yeah.
AJ is from Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah. No, I was referring to the Indian guy from...
Oh, yeah. I don't know his name. I can check.
I do not know his name. But him, what's the kid from Jessie?
Ravi.
Ravi.
That's why I gasped. I was like...
Ravi, and then the guy from the Quickie Mart from Simpsons. I think they all play into very stereotypical, like, caricatures of Indian people, and give them, like, an accent, and, like, put, like,
curry,
Yeah. And not saying that it's bad to have, like, an accent in your characters. No, it's not bad. If anything, it can add authenticity to your characters. But it just feels bad when that's kind of, like, put there for a gag, or just put there to make it funny and, like, make fun of those people, so...
Okay. I have one thing. I think in adult shows like The Simpsons, it's a little bit more excusable because it's meant to be, whatever. But there are certain things that are like, But then again, like, I think with shows like The Simpsons, it's more like, I'm not trying to say like everything they've done is perfect, which it's not.
Yeah.
But it's also like, some things it's like, stereotypes. I think they do that for a lot of different things, and it's not just Indian culture, and I think that's part of the show, and whether or not that's okay is a whole other story. But I think it's also, like, recognizable that adult shows exist, and that's their thing.
Very true.
I don't know. That's just what I've noted.
Yeah. I know, like, a lot of cartoons, especially, like, mainly kids type of shows, too, they always, like, interpret, like, everybody wrong. Like, make them as stereotypical as possible. And it's like, you guys are showing this to, like, kids too, and they're gonna see this, and they're also probably gonna interpret this wrong, and it's like, ew.
Yeah. So, let's jump into the good representation that I researched specifically. But before that, I kind of wanted to bring up Jessie, and I'm saying that there are POC actors. I haven't watched the show in a while, so I can't really say that, like, a representation was good or bad, because, Zuri, the character, obviously, and then also Cameron Boyce, because he was a black man. Rest in peace, King.
My favorite Irish woman.
One of my first crushes ever. But so dipping into the good representation, I think these people all know what's coming when I start with good representation, and that is Monster High.
Yeah.
Monster High.
Monster High.
It's copyright.
I sang it.
He can still flag you.
Your singing is just so good, we'll get flagged on the spot.
No. So Monster High, I believe, has a lot of movies that basically encapsulate different cultures but without, outright saying that. Well, they do show different cultures because they're all from different monsters, but I'm talking about, like, different races. And they portray that in a lot of movies like Fried On, Skull Shores, and also Ghouls Rule, when, fighting humans versus monsters. I feel like that's Mattel's way of kind of addressing it, but I don't even know if the creators of that movie realized that as well. And also in Fried On with vampires versus werewolves, because, like, I don't know if anyone else noticed, if they've seen the film, but most of the vampires are white, and most of the werewolves are, darker in skin, and in speech as well. And also it might be a Twilight thing, but that's different. The second one I'd like to include is Bridgerton, because Bridgerton, that's my show. It's my show. British people. Wait, no, I can't say that one out loud. But for the past 2 seasons, they have had POC main characters and love interests, interracial marriage. Let's go. For the next season, it won't be there. I'm pretty sure there will probably be POC characters, but not, like, main characters, because it's been announced which storyline they will be focusing on for season 3 when it comes out, and it's a white couple. So, but these past 2 seasons, the first one was a black duke and a white. She's a duchess, I think. And then
What is Bridgerton?
Oh, yeah. Bridgerton is a Netflix original series, and it's basically a periodical drama on, basically marriage culture.
Oh.
And that process, and it takes place in the 19th century, so the 1800s. It's very interesting how they capture everything, and for the most part, they don't really talk about race. But it's interesting how they incorporated it. Like, for the second season, as I was saying, the love interest of Anthony Bridgerton is Indian. And, she's so pretty! Oh my god. But, yeah. But I think that's a nice twist. Shonda Rhimes, you're a goat. That's the person who made the show. Shondaland. Well, that's her company. But, does anyone else have any good representation?
I would just like to add. So I don't know much about Bridgerton because I just started watching it. But I remember watching a video saying that sometimes
I'm sorry.
sometimes the best POC representation comes from characters that are included in the series and their race isn't really mentioned, or is made like a focal point for their character. Sometimes they say, like, just kind of writing them as, like, an actual character and, like, writing them as an actual character and an actual human being and not making them all centered around their race or have, like, only kind of, like, what do you call it, like, adding them for the sake of diversity. Sometimes is what makes some of the best POC representation. So I just remember hearing that, and sometimes I kind of think about that with Bridgerton because it's not really, their race or their ethnicities aren't really mentioned that often inside the show.
It's more of, like, because it's all about not authority, but also royalty. Because, the queen is black too.
Oh yeah,
big purr. That's the first time I said that in a long time. Wow. And I'll get back to that another time. Does anyone else have any good representation?
So there's this great show that I love and I recently binged.
Oh, wait.
It's called Amphibia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the main character of this show is Thai. And I'm going to be completely honest right here. I didn't know Thai people existed. Genuinely. I didn't, like, I knew that they, like, existed, right? But I didn't really understand, I didn't know much about them, Like, I've heard Thai before. I knew that people were Thai, I've heard, like, Thailand, I've heard things like that before, right? But I've never seen it. With Amphibia, it's like, first of all, it's the fact that the main character, Anne, is like she's Thai, right? But it's also like it's mentioned in the show very casually, right? She's a teenager, right? She's 13ish, right? I mean, we're teenagers. That's weird to say, but whatever. She's a teenager. She she likes being on her phone. She likes typical like things. But she's also like because like in season 2, she not to give spoilers, but there's a lot of parts where she's interacting with her community, and there's a lot of like Thai culture in there and Thai food. And I actually tried Thai food for the first time not that long ago. It's really good. It's really good. I liked it. But it's like it introduced me to like a whole bunch of culture that I never knew about. So many cool and interesting things that I just never knew. And I love the show because it's not like in your face, and it's not like not that like representation like it can't be too obvious or else no, but it's like it's like she's written like a human, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I was gonna say Castlevania. One thing about Castlevania that I noticed that video game wise, I haven't played the video game, so I might be like a slight bit off with this, but the character Isaac in Castlevania is black, and in the games, Isaac is not black. And I'm not saying that they added him made him black for the sake of representation, or like we need a black man in the series. What I love about Castlevania and how they portrayed Isaac is that Isaac has his own story arc. He has his own arc. Like, I think it's after season 2, you follow him in like season 3 and 4 and see kind of like what he's doing after like this whole big event happens. And so he's kind of like by himself, and he's trying to find another person in the series. So I think that's good in terms of just like POC having like an actual storyline. And I don't know if Hector is POC because he's brown skin, but he has his own little story arc too. And then not to mention other characters that are in the series that are you have the twins, and I hate the twins. You will find out once if you have watched Castlevania season 3. I hate the twins, so maybe bad representation for them. They're Asian, but I hate the twins. I hate the twins. If you watch the series, you know why I hate the twins. What?
Sorry, just like. Sorry, just that like the fact that you don't say why you hate them, and the only information we have about them is that they're Asian.
Okay. I don't want to spoil it, but if I have to spoil it, I'll spoil it.
I mean, spoiler warning.
Yeah, spoiler warning. If you have not watched season 3 of Castlevania, you might want to skip this part. The reason why I hate the twins so much is because they sexually assaulted Alucard. There's a girl by the end of season 4 that Alucard meets that is dark skinned. I don't know if, like, I guess race or ethnicity wise what she is, but they don't really mention race like that. But there are I think there is also another black character that Isaac meets when he's trying to go somewhere. But he has like not Jamaican, I don't want to say Jamaican, but like a Caribbean African accent. So, sometimes that makes me feel a little bit seen, because like, I'm from the Caribbean, so it makes me feel seen. Can I add something about bad representation?
I think Marion had something.
Oh, my bad.
You can finish.
Did
Or
Marion
just
come back?
No.
Oh, damn.
You sure?
But I know you mentioned Amphibia and
yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I know those shows along with like the Owl House and Arcane and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they all have good representation from what I've seen, from clips I've seen.
So the other one I just remember because the reason I pushed it back to you because I forgot what I was gonna say. I shouldn't read natural, but it's fine. There's another character in Amphibia, Marcy. I love Marcy so much. She first of all, she's like Asian, I think. Her name's Marcy Wu. And so like her whole thing, like she's really smart, right? But she's also really into like a lot of like typical nerd stuff, like like D&D, things like that, and she's really into certain video games and things like that, and she really, those are things she liked, and it's just like, yes, because that's something that's like, first of all, but I can't relate to, and it's not very, like, her culture isn't really prominent in the show as Anne, because Anne is the main character. She still is, like, a great character. They don't do that stupid thing where, like, Asian characters where they just draw the eyes, like, lines. Like just normal eyes, you know. I don't know. She's a great character. Yeah, this is just good representation that I love. Yeah.
I was gonna transition back into bad representation after this, because when you were talking about, do I remember which show? Oh, Fairly Odd Parents, I think. I thought about good representation, but the Netflix original show, Never Have I Ever. Damn, no one knows. Okay.
No, I've heard of it.
But it's basically focused on, the main girl is an Indian girl, and they focus a lot on her culture and her wanting to step out of it to find love because of people who aren't Indian as well. And, well, can I say it's good representation? I do not know much about the culture, so I can't say yes, no.
Yeah.
But there is representation definitely there.
Yeah.
In the way they show that there are certain like holidays, cultural holidays. I already forgot the one that they showed. No,
Eid?
I'm not even gonna try. But there was one. And overall, I think that show does have like POC representation. Like, yeah, there are white people, but I think the amount of POC overshadows the amount of white people as well. Going back into bad representation, I wanted to talk specifically about caricatures, which Deja mentioned earlier. And caricatures are basically, you know, an exaggeration of someone or something's characteristics, you know, like the things you see on the boardwalk or at fairs and stuff. And I wanted to bring up Total Drama. And I was recently watching it for this podcast, and it's more specifically in their black characters, so like Lashana and DJ, and specifically in the character design as well, you know, features that are like over-sexualized on black women, and, you know, also how people perceive black men. And you could also see that in their speech, like they have, not accents, but, you know, the way that they talk. And also there was a quote that I caught on to from the first episode when Lashana first came to the island, and this white guy was like staring at her like, oh. And he was like, oh, I've never seen a girl like you in real life before.
Ooh, no.
Yeah. And he also said, he said later on, you're real big and loud.
Was that Harold?
Yes, it was Harold.
Okay, so have you finished the series, right?
Well, this was only in the first episode.
Right.
Yeah, I know what happens.
Later.
I know what happens later. They
Yeah.
have a little love thing.
Yeah.
But
Her
like,
funky little white boy.
literally. But at the beginning, like, watching that now versus watching that when I was like 11 is obviously different.
Yeah.
Because so much has happened. Moving on into more caricatures, in Kickin' It on Disney XD. It's a very good show. However, it does play into some stereotypes about black people with, you know, characters that seem to have, you know, mysteriously fallen off after 1 or 2 seasons. For example, one of the only main black characters, like, left the show after like 1.5 or 2 seasons, and it was really weird because like it was just like a disappearance and he was never seen again. And also there was this lunch lady that was in that show as well, and they kind of played into the stereotype of being big and, you know, kind of aggressive, and that's another thing as well. And I added another thing about Disney, specifically with Disney Channel, just because I know, you know, Disney Pixar, with their films, they're changing and adding more representation in their films. But they either incorporate representation of people of color very well, have people of color but play into stereotypes, or it doesn't incorporate it at all. And that's just a thing I notice, you know, just in my years of having vision and hearing. I wouldn't say this next one doesn't play into stereotypes, yes, and it's also extremely controversial because, you know, yeah, but Glee, you see, I've talked about Glee every single episode, just because there's so much to take from it, like, not even with just, like, POC representation and racism and cultural appropriation, but just, like, gender norms and sexuality and disability as well, and also mental illness as well. Well, like, obviously, like, for main characters, we have Mercedes Jones, which, I can't curse right.
Use, like, mother flipping, you know?
I freaking love her. There are aspects of Glee where it's like, it's good, but it's also bad. Because there's also another black character who is actually trans. And they showcase things, but they don't, like, showcase things, if you know what I mean, I think. Yeah. Oh, there are actually 2 trans characters.
Yo, that's you win.
That will be in Deja's episode. Just
I was
Deja.
gonna mention Glee. I don't know much about Glee, but there are certain things I will mention about Glee.
I could go circles. Anyway, well, this is a detail I recently learned, but there is this one gay character, and his name is Kurt, and originally in the original Glee lore, I guess, that wasn't actually supposed to be a character. And they made that character up just for the actor, just because they thought it was so great, and it replaced a POC character who was going to be the love interest of Mercedes Jones.
Is the character that they made is it white?
Yeah, it's a white.
Aww.
It's a white
They
gay.
originally lost.
Yeah, and he also sang a Whitney Houston song in it.
What?
It was I Have Nothing, which is like one of my favorite songs ever, and so when I heard that, I was like, not the white man. Well, not only not the white man, but it's just like his voice is so high that it's like kind of ruined it. Next in Glee, we're going to talk about Mr. Will Schuester, who also makes me want to throw up because he's a pedophile.
Gross. Ew.
But constantly in the show, he is, because it's the show's basically a jukebox musical, but a jukebox series, and a lot of the time he is singing like black songs and rapping and stuff. This is a white man. This is a straight white man, who also teaches Spanish, by the way. But yeah, it just gets worse. It gets worse. It's not even just like a POC thing and like a race thing, but it's just like he's so ill.
Wait, is the actor a pedo or is like the character?
The character.
Okay.
The character. But everyone, even with the actor, is just like, why would you agree to doing that?
Yeah. Why would you?
Why would you do that? For your own mental life.
Yeah. And I think with Glee, I don't think they dive into POC culture quite often, because I feel like the show mainly talks about, I guess, like, growing pains, but just, like, in an unrealistic way. Yes.
Is it, if not visual, I raise my hand, just so you know. But basically, is it like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm a teenager, I do drugs and crack on the floor? Is it one of those things?
Kind of.
Oh my God.
Except it's, like, stretched out.
Okay.
Across, like, 6 seasons.
Listen.
Oh, so like you
I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch 6 seasons of teenage drama. I've dealt with
Well,
this
it's not
so
teenage
long.
drama. They grow up and they still follow.
That's so bullcrap,
Yeah.
though. Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, actually, side note, there is a scene where, like, there's a girl pregnant, right?
Mhm.
And she gives birth as a white guy sings Freddie Mercury at the competition because she got in labor at the competition. And like, wait, it was Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh,
And,
that's even
no,
worse.
and like, and you know where it's like for me, she's like having contractions, so she's screaming, and they like blended that together. It's terrible.
What is wrong
it's
with
absolutely.
Glee?
Anyways, moving on.
Love those guys.
Kind of like teetering in between good and bad representation. You know.
Oh, I
just
wanted to
kind of-
add something about bad representation. Anime and black people.
Yeah.
Let's
Stereotypical
talk about
lips.
it.
The lips.
The lips. I'm tired of seeing this Bobo the Fool caricature. I'm tired of it. Stop okay, people who are anime artists and you want to draw black people, don't be scared. It's okay. Just learn. It's okay. It's not that difficult, honestly. And if you need criticism, it's okay. It's okay. If you need criticism, it's okay. But anime artists in the professional industries,
Why?
why are you still drawing black people with these round little like you're drawing like a racist caricature of these lips and they're like bright pink and I'm like speaking from my heart.
Okay, I just want to say shout out to like the POC like anime artists who draw like a POC in anime style that are so gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Those look so good. I love them so much.
I would shout out some people, but I don't remember their names.
Shout out people.
You're great. We love you.
We love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Professionals do better.
But I think what makes me so mad seeing that is like seeing how they draw lips and seeing how they draw their features very exaggerated. It makes me angry because it's just like black people don't even look like that. Like
A fish
the
don't look
lips,
that even.
the
Like, how do you do
lips,
that?
especially. I'm like the bright pink or light pink color. I'm like sure some people might have like like maybe like their lip shade is a little lighter or kind of blends into their skin, but for the most part, people that I've met who are black usually have like more of like a browner tone or like maybe like a pink that's I don't know. It's hard to explain. But it infuriates me. People who draw black anime characters correctly, thank you. Thank you. It makes me so much more happier. But for y'all that don't do it correctly, I'm not no.
I just want to say, when you're like doing art, it's very intimidating to like draw like POC representation in every shape and form. This is why it's good to use references.
Exactly.
Please look at actual photos. It really helps capture actual things. And I want to say. Like one of the things that I struggle with drawing personally is wheelchairs, just because there's a lot of like lines and like straight lines and things like that, especially drawing a character in a wheelchair. But it's one of those things you just gotta keep drawing it. The only way to get better is just to keep drawing it, and it's okay if it's not perfect. You just keep going. Accept constructive criticism.
Exactly.
That's how you get better at things. Anyways,
Exactly.
my Marin's tangent.
Oh, I was gonna add one more thing. I know some people. A lot of this kind of I guess drama of drawing black anime character kind of stems from Twitter. Too, because if you have Twitter or have been on Twitter, you kind of know what it's like seeing certain artists that are not black drawing black characters and seeing the amount of criticism they get. Not even criticism, it's just bullying straight up. But like, you're racist because you drew them 2 shades lighter. And it's like, a lot of those artists that they say that to are Japanese.
Yeah.
They're Japanese and it's not that they've never seen a black person in their life. It's just more so like if you consider Japan's population, it's mainly Japanese people. Then next to that, maybe like Koreans, Chinese, and stuff like that. And then like a very little population of it are like foreigners. It's not very common in their life. They'll see like I guess black people, but I just think it's just, like I see like the fear because I've read some comments from like Twitter users of like I want to draw black people but I'm so scared because I've seen friends they know on Twitter get doxxed or bullied or like relentlessly like like those behaviors that I guess typical Twitter behavior but like they're scared that it'll happen to them but a lot of it is just like for me it's just like the most you can do is try and people who respect what you're doing will give genuine advice and tell you like, oh, maybe you should do this, and then I think that would look more accurate. So, if you're, I guess to anybody who's scared to draw POC characters, the most you can do is try and keep on practicing and practicing. The more you practice, the better you'll get at drawing them.
Now we're talking about POC representation in the theater. I've always wanted to be a theater kid.
You don't have to think about it, Al. You can just be one.
So true.
Embody it.
Because, I think, many of us in, I think, our teen lives, some of us, went through a little Hamel stand phase.
Oh.
Yeah. Alexander
see that.
Hamilton.
I was girl bossed into it, okay?
Yeah, okay. But, you know, if you've seen Hamilton, you know what it's about. If you've heard of Hamilton, you probably know what it's about. But it's good for people to see representation because it's an interesting twist on American colonial history as it talks about, you know, Independence Day and all the things that happened during that. But it's told, instead of through, you know, white people, it's told through the voices of POC artists, you know, because Lin-Manuel Miranda, he was good with that, and he also did that with In the Heights, even though that's like an original story from him. And also, Hamilton's a good one for POC representation, and also in Hairspray as well, if I remember correctly. Can't say much on that because I've seen it, but I haven't seen it enough to like remember everything.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Oh. I don't watch musicals.
Oh.
Me neither.
Faker. No.
Well, it's not even like it's a movie musical.
Mm.
You haven't seen the one with Ariana Grande?
I don't watch
I don't
musicals
watch
like that.
those either.
Damn.
Sorry, I'm the only other person who here's a musical person, and I was like, I watched like
I wasn't a theater.
Avenue Q and the SpongeBob musical, so like
The SpongeBob musical.
Okay.
that one slaps.
Uh,
Low-key.
And then there's also another musical, like it's very 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 good, but the Tonys, which is the awards for Broadway specifically and Broadway actors and actresses and all that, but it has not been given its proper flowers because it's like one of the only musicals that has never won, like I think there's one for like best show or something, and it's The Color Purple. And like it's basically an all black show. But it has like never won a major Tony Award ever. Yeah. Interesting. And like all these other musicals have won, and that's just something I would shout out. And also, there's this theater account on TikTok I follow, and it basically shows like bad like productions, because you know like people do high school plays.
Yeah.
Stuff. I think you might. Yeah. So well, this is what because you know I mentioned In the Heights earlier, but have y'all heard of In the Whites? I've sent
Oh
you.
my
I
God.
sent.
Oh,
I don't think I sent it to you, Kayla.
I don't think I've seen this, but
Oh.
just hearing that sounds awful.
But it was the one where it's like 96,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, 925,000? Is it
No,
that?
that's
okay.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I
That's
was about
right.
to scream.
No. they probably have done a bad version of that.
Rent, more
But
like buy.
In the Heights, you know, it's indigenous people. Yeah, right. But this middle school, there is only like 2 people of color. You know, but everyone else is white, just white of white.
Wait, indigenous pertaining to what? Because
Well,
indigenous
not like-
is
Well, like
kind of a broad.
you know, like Latin American.
Oh, so this is
yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
This is targeting
Well-
me a little bit.
Well, like, in the Heights, I don't know what ethnicity,
well,
the-
it
well, oh,
depends.
wait. like Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican. That's in the actual one that's good. The one that's good.
Yeah.
But you know the rights. Have
I
been-
know, but I know. I'm wincing at the fact that this representation has been like
You got
torn
the
away
white
in the
kids
white.
to represent Dominicans.
So like most of the people who have like been in Hamilton, like the original cast, have like done In the Heights at some point in their career. Lin-Manuel Miranda, because you know he wrote the thing, but
Slay.
but there is this. Well, I don't know if it's blowing up anymore, but you know this production of In the Heights that a middle school it looks like put on, but like basically everyone is white except for like the main character who kind of popped off, and everyone's singing is just terrible. And
I
there's
mean,
just,
it's a
like,
middle school, but
well,
also
yes, but it's also white people who are performing a ethnic musical. Oh, and there's another.
okay. First of all, I was about to say don't blame them; they're kids. But then again, who greenlit this?
Yeah.
What
Oh,
adult
yeah,
thought this was a good idea?
Adults as well.
Yeah, don't blame the kids. They're still developing their
Yeah.
brains. They're middle schoolers.
Yeah.
But like the adults, think about this.
Yeah.
Who use
there
your
was-
one brain cell?
There
Sorry.
was also another one I saw. I don't know which musical it was, but there was blackface involved.
Oh.
And it was on little kids.
Oh
Little white kids, yeah.
Who did this?
And now, we are going to transition into one of my favorite topics of all time, and also one of my favorite subtopics of all time. K-pop and cultural appropriation.
I know this one.
I was gonna say yay, but I'm like, no, that's not a yay. That's a no.
I mean, it's a yay if you'd like to talk about it.
I have a something whenever you're ready to like transition to someone else when you're done.
Okay, so with K-pop, you know, it's great, it's jazzy, you know, but a lot of cultural appropriation. When it, specifically music videos and things of that nature as well, you know, things that K-pop idols have just said themselves, and it's not even the company's fault, because most of the cultural appropriation, like in the music videos, it is the company's fault because it's the hairstylists and makeup artists' responsibility. Like that's their job. Well, I include some pictures on my doc if you'd like to, you know.
I recognize this man in the top.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't like it.
But it's not just yeah. It's I'm not saying it's a recent issue, but you know, it's something that has ramped up in the past couple of years. And it's tiring to see because most of the cultural appropriation is of Black culture and also, I think, is it Indonesian culture as well? Yeah. Did you wanna?
I just want to say that like I don't think I've ever like I've seen this happen before, and the term I've seen that it like called that like referring to this is called blackfishing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's the same thing, but
it can be incorporated.
It can be.
It's not just a K-pop thing though. That's just like a thing.
Oh
that
yeah.
happens everywhere.
What's it
Like there was this girl. Oh well, multiple influencers have been. Nikita Dragon.
Oh.
They call it the chameleon.
The race shifter.
Yeah, she's like, what race am I gonna be today? Like,
The race-
girl, no one's laughing with
The
you.
race bender.
We're laughing at you.
That was
But
the
that's
funniest joke I heard.
for another time. And there is one company in particular that is just known for always incorporating some type of cultural appropriation, and that is SM Entertainment. SM Entertainment is the holder of K-pop groups such as NCT, EXO, Red Velvet.
No.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not.
Red
No.
Velvet, Super Junior.
Totally destroyed.
Oh, also aespa. That's the girl that's like skirt. Oh, yeah. But they just keep when you think they get better, like from not it just drops drastically. Like every group that they hold has at least one video where like either someone's in dreads, or there has been something exposed where someone said the N-word. Yeah.
Yikes.
I'm so distraught.
And there's also a lot of colorism. That's not even like just a Black thing. That's just like within Asian culture as well. Like other members of groups will call like their other members like dark. Like, oh, I couldn't even see you because you're so dark. And it's just like, man.
Come on now.
Or do you want?
Oh, I want to
Continue. Okay. Continue.
Oh, they also hold Girls' Generation, which I'm pretty sure is like pretty out there one
I
as
don't know
well. It's a K-pop.
Oh, okay.
I mean, their songs are good, but you know some of the things these people be saying are just like.
I do not
What's
see.
the one guy that like
J Park.
everybody's saying that if he wasn't controversial, he'd be the finest man in the world.
And they're not entirely wrong.
Yeah, I agree. They're not wrong.
Like, he has good music, but some of the stuff he be saying, I'm just like,
So
dude, I was rooting for you, and you're from America. You're literally from Washington State. And
How do you say that?
Washington
How do you say
behavior.
that? How do you say that?
you're
Not you. Those people.
Washington.
J Park is
behavior.
not.
I'm kidding.
He's not affiliated with SM Entertainment. But SM Entertainment is not the only company that commits cultural appropriation. There's also JYP. J Park's company. He has a company. AOMG. YG. And also.
Why are they so similar?
They all G.
And they're all all men are heads of them.
Yeah.
And they've had some like pedophilic sexual harassment cases as well. But that's for another time. But it's not only something that the company commits. The idols themselves commit cultural appropriation as well. For example, this picture of the guy with dreads, he put that on himself. Yeah. Yes.
Question. So this is something that I've actually been thinking about for a while. So the reason why, like, let's say a white person wearing dreads is like not good is because it's taking away from a certain culture without realizing the history behind it.
Yeah, that's.
So let's say, if someone, I'm not trying to say like, oh, this would justify it. I'm just trying to give a situation, like, just to understand, like, let's say, a person who is white learns a lot about the culture, right? They learn a lot about blah 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 blah. They are supporters of it, blah 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 blah. Would it be okay for them to?
No.
Because in what they've learned, they should know that it's still not okay for them to wear it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Also, it goes with hair type too.
Yeah.
Your hair's
Yeah.
gonna
Like your hair bald.
your
You will
hair
go
is
bald.
going to fall out.
Like.
I get where you're coming from though, because like kind of like maybe it's like cultural appreciation instead. But there's
that's not.
That's one of those things.
That's just not what it is.
Yeah.
But like I said, companies are not the only ones committing the cultural appropriation. It's the idols themselves. You know, multiple idols have said the N-word, worn these hairstyles, like the whole 9 yards. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. And it's like, oh wow, people are real. And there is one person in particular. He doesn't only commit cultural appropriation. He just pisses me off. But Christopher Bang of Stray Kids, Stray Kitty Kids.
When you say Bang, I think of the TikTok guy.
That's literally his last name. But
No, I think of Bang like the drink.
Oh, Bang Energy.
Sorry.
Anyway,
sorry, off topic, but yeah.
I used to think this man was so fine. And then he wore cornrows and started crying on live. Like he was doing his apology with the cornrows still in his head. And I was like, man, I can't do this anymore. Oh, and just, not even just with him, but his entire group of Stray Kids, well, not like all of them are problematic, but there was one, I think his name is Han, but there is a video of him when he was 13, and he said, like, all the slurs he could say in Korean. And he made a rap about it. He was like, yeah, yes.
Has he apologized for this?
Yes, but usually the apologies are forced.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people won't acknowledge that it happened until they get caught. Or, like, they're harassed about it. Or sometimes it just won't be even addressed at all. But because cultural appropriation, going back to cultural appropriation, has happened so much in the K-pop community, like, K-pop artists still today, like, even, like, new people who have just debuted are wearing these hairstyles still, not knowing what's wrong with it. And, you know, there are some companies and some groups out there that are, like, alright, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And, like, that's great. And it's like, hey, diversity win. But there are some people who just, like, continually apologize, but also do not change at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there have also been multiple do-rags worn, box braids, African headdresses, and things like that. And it's just, like, it's so much at this point where it's just, like, what's new? Yeah. Yes, again.
Okay, are you done, or do you want me to, or can I?
You can share.
So, I actually didn't know this, really, genuinely. I mean, I knew there was, like, I knew that this was happening, but I didn't know it was this prominent. When you talked about culture appropriation with, like, K-pop, the first thing that came to my mind was that one guy who, like, put Botox all over his face to look Asian.
Ollie London!
That guy. Or that person. I don't know anything. Like, listen.
Transracial.
Yeah, I want to say that, like, I'm pretty sure this wasn't your intention, but I just want to clarify it for anyone who's listening, so they can't, like, oh, well, you know, just want to clarify it for anyone who's listening. But, we're not, like, saying, like, oh, all people who are Korean are bad. We're not saying that. Yeah. Not at all. Because, like, some people, like, you know, it happens to them, too, right? Like, and just because... Oh, sorry, what do you want?
Well, also I wanted to add, you know, BTS, obviously. One of the most popular K-pop, well, the most popular K-pop group ever. Like, even they've had some run-ins with cultural appropriation and, you know, just being racist, but they've apologized for it and grown from that and actually have never done it again. So that's a good thing of, like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, appreciation and things like that. Meanwhile, these other groups will not follow suit. EXO, I'm looking at you. NCT, I'm looking at you. And you know, it makes me like hate people. And just with how prominent these issues are, it makes me like not really want to listen to K-pop anymore. Even if it's like not like my favorite group, it's just like so toxic, and just like fandoms on top of that is even more just like like this thing where, well, for me it was just like a place where I just found like a happy place, and you know it just keeps going down.
Yeah, and this is like we're talking about like the effects of that, where it's just like it's not one of those things you can just ignore, because it's like it kind of invalidates like so much history and so much like culture, and it's just like cultural appropriate. It makes it so hard to enjoy things.
Yeah.
You see those like
and, like even like if they apologize for it, like it's still like dude, it still happened. And that's it. Like I said, it's not something that happens only in the K-pop community. It's also very much in the influencer community as well. You know, especially with TikTokers, Nikita Dragon, and also, you know, white influencers who have uttered the N-word.
I wonder who that could be.
Lil Huddy.
I know. Too many.
Yeah, way
too many.
Like it's mostly the F boys.
I mean, should be no one.
Yeah.
But
Oh, and there are a lot of girls on TikTok who also blackfish, like you said. There are a lot. Is you want to say?
Okay, I just wanted to finish my thought earlier about like it does go both ways of like cultural appropriation. The amount of like people on the internet, especially like I think a little bit early internet, was like kawaii, you know, that whole thing.
Asian fishing.
That thing. Yeah, it's like oh no, stop. And it's like, you know, you see like white men saying like, oh, I want like an Asian woman. That's so gross, so gross,
Oh,
so gross.
fetishization.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge thing. I hate that so much.
Asian one.
Yeah, so you see that when people like casually wearing like actual cultural things, like as it's so cute, you know.
No,
But also one last thing. This is like from my culture, Native American.
Oh, there's a lot of that.
There's a lot.
Yes.
There's so much, and every time I see it, it hurts. It burns me. Especially with like Halloween costumes, which
I was
is
about to just say that.
ooh, Halloween costumes. Those hurt. But also like the whole thing when you're younger and you're just like, oh, we're playing Indian or whatever, and then you go like you do the scream where you put your mouth over and you go da 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 da.
Yeah.
That is like, oh, it's a war cry. No, it's not. And then like how people, there's this one guy. Last thing, right? I promise. One guy, he was like, I know this guy was super controversial, but he wore like a Native American, like I forgot the name of it, but it was like a Native American like actual tribal thing with like the flowers on it. He made it goth and shit, and it was just like
I know what you're talking about.
That guy. He had a whole scandal, whatever.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was just like that is so bad. Don't do that. That is so like important, and don't.
It's
you know,
so disrespectful.
Yeah, and
like why?
Yeah. Originally, okay, so not to tie everything back to Minecraft YouTube, but okay, there's this one who I was really worried about because he had a Native American like character skin. I was worried about it, but it turned out he himself is Native American. Okay. Epic Win. Yes, I one of my favorites. Love him. Pause on pause. Love him.
Can I answer?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing going back to I guess cultural appropriation. One thing I would like to just say, we did a whole research paper on this, which I actually thoroughly enjoyed learning about. Culture is not an accessory.
It's not.
Culture is not an accessory.
It's not
it is
fashion.
It's not fashion, and we see this way too much in not only the entertainment industry, but also daily life, models, fashion, all that. It's awful. But I want to add one more thing about cultural appropriation. So I'm not Jamaican, but I'm Belizean American, and I notice commonly with Jamaican culture, you ever see like, I think when you think of Caribbean culture, you probably think of Bob Marley, but you also probably think of like, you know, those big hats with the dreads and stuff like that. That's from Rastafarian culture, and Rastafarian is a whole lifestyle and culture that is native to Jamaica, and every time I see it, it just makes me feel like I'm not Jamaican, but it just makes me feel disrespected because like you look at Caribbean culture and that's what you see. You just see like like potheads, and it's like no, Rastafarian culture has an actual significance. It's not just smoking weed, and it's not just singing reggae songs and Bob Marley. It's an actual culture, and it's an actual lifestyle that people live. Do not disrespect Bob Marley like that, please.
And it's the same thing with African American culture, you know? Like, not like, hip-hop is not, like, the only thing in African American culture. Baggy clothes, it's not the only thing. Afros, cornrows, braids. Like, there's so much more than that. And so, to, I guess, well, just everyone in life, specifically Christopher Bang, I freaking hate you. But just if you say you're gonna change and you really believe that, show that. Don't just tell me, show me. Like, I think it's just like the same thing when people are just like, oh, don't tell someone you love them every day, just show them. But it's the same thing where it's just like making the people around you uncomfortable, and also specifically for music artists, making the people who listen to your music and found their voice through your music uncomfortable. Yeah. Did you?
Was that a closing thought or?
Not right now. But.
Okay.
Oh, there was this one K-pop group. Was it Black Swan? I think.
Yes.
I know there was a lot of controversy, especially within that group too.
Yeah, because they have. Wait. Is that the one that has the black member?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is one black K-pop idol. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
It starts with an F.
Yeah, it starts with an F. She is, like, she's experienced a lot of racism online.
Ooh, gross.
She's not the first black one, though.
Yeah.
She's not. But a lot of K-pop idols who also happen to be black, experience a lot of racism, not only online, but just, like, in their industry as well. Because, you know, like, this is just a general thing with K-pop and just know everything. You don't know what's really happening with those people. Like, things that you see on performances and reality shows could all just be an act. And also, like, this is just a regular thing. Not everyone is single. Your favorite K-pop man is married with a child at home and their dog.
Respectfully look, okay?
Yeah. But that's another thing.
I know that, like, some cultures, I'm not saying all of them, some cultures, it's like, some people are like, yes, take this, you know, it's part of our culture, and we would be happy if more people, like, took it on, right? But that does not mean that every culture, every little bit, is something that you can take. Look, you know, it's like a museum. Sometimes you'll get a little thing at the gift shop.
Yeah, look but don't touch.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's for the museum exhibits, right? Look, but don't touch. Appreciate. Learn about it, you know? Not to say that we're all historical and, like, oh, we don't exist, you know? Yeah. I mean, whatever, museums are a whole other thing, but whatever. But it's also, like, you know, sometimes cultures are like, yes, take this, you know? But it's only if the culture allowed, if the people are saying, yes, take this, you know?
But it's also, like, you have to be careful with what you say that, because not one person can speak for that culture.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because there are lots of times, like, on social media specifically, when someone will be culturally appropriating. Like, I've seen this happen with, like, people who aren't black with braids, and there's someone like, I'm black and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Where it's like, yeah, you don't speak for everyone. And I've seen that, especially with disability, where it's like one person, they're like, oh, well, I have autism, and I think saying the R word is okay. It's like, you don't speak for everyone.
Don't say that. I was quoting an audio. I'm not saying don't say that.
But yeah, so it's just like, remember that your one friend who is that does not speak for everyone, you know? It's like, but it is, I do want to say that asking your friends who are well known, like people who do know a lot about that, about culture, is okay as long as you're taking multiple perspectives, not just theirs.
Yeah.
Because that's my little spiel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that good? If you want to disagree, please do.
I don't disagree with anything.
I'm ready to say my closing thingy.
All right, closing thoughts.
So I think, well, this is just for an overall podcast. We want people to be open to learning about what's wrong and what's not in terms of representation. And I think with my episode specifically, I just wanted to share that people matter. That's one thing. People's identities matter. People's race and ethnicity is a big part of identity. And so when people see that they are represented wrong, it just puts a bad picture, especially at a young age, because a lot of the shows we've been talking about are kid shows, and it's just like, don't do that. Like, why are you giving them a bad image at this young? Because that just creates like self-image and self-esteem issues. I know it did for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but with me, I just want to show, like, just not exactly a negative eye, even though it probably came off as negative, but just a critical eye on shows that everyone loves. Like, I know everyone loves Lab Rats, but just like recognizing that was a thing that happened, is still good to recognize. And also, like, as an analytical person, a lot of people say, like, oh, don't make everything about this, don't make everything about that, but it's just like, you can't really ignore it once you realize it. Well, that's just me.
Everything is in everything, right? So it's like, you can't make it all about it. Well, it's there, so, yeah.
Yeah, like once I realized that thing about Lab Rats, I think that was one of the most, not devastating, but just, like, kind of, just tore a little piece of my heart, because it's, like, one of my favorite shows ever. So just, like, realizing that was like, oh, I can't really look at it the same. We made this podcast to reach out to creators who wanted to educate and learn, or are willing to. And that's the same thing for my last point about the K-pop community as well. Because what most fans fight for, most, sane fans fight for, is, like, we're not asking you to, like, change right now, but we're also asking you to, like, be open to educating yourself about these things so this doesn't happen again. And that's just not a K-pop community thing. That's just a celebrity thing in general as well.
Fandoms.
Yeah. And even though I didn't really cover, like, everything in entertainment, because, I could go on about the Kardashians for hours, but we only got limited time. Just know that what I covered today is not everything, and I hope that you can go and do your own research yourself.
We are not your research.
Yeah, we are not your research. We do not have doctorates. We don't even have a high school diploma yet, but we will in, like,
a couple of weeks.
3 weeks' time. Yeah. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for listening.
Anyway, anyone else have closing thoughts before we close?
This was a very good podcast episode. Thank you so much for watching and observing our content. We really do appreciate it. And can't wait to see you next time for the episode. I'm talking about
The LGBT.
The LGBTQ. I'm very excited for it. Also, another thing. Hopefully today, when we record this podcast, Instagram page will be out.
Yeah. At Mad K Podcast. Like and subscribe. Oh wait, that's not Instagram.
No,
we will be on YouTube.
Well, yes, but
Put it on YouTube.
Like and subscribe, and subscribe to our Patreon.
We have a Patreon?
No, we do not have a Patreon.
Don't lie to people like that.
Yeah, Allie, don't spread false information.
Don't subscribe to our Patreon. /J.
/J.
Ha. Yeah,
Whoa.
that makes it. You see,
Okay.
That makes it a joke.
Kalani, I know you haven't talked a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be like, oh, you haven't talked a lot.
I'm still focusing on that train of thought I lost this entire time, and it's annoying me so
All the
bad.
Kehlani's fans are gonna be so disappointed.
It's been
Shut up,
irritating
Sarah.
me this entire time.
Okay, let me see.
Well, I don't know. I'm so lost. But anyways, I really like this whole podcast overall. And I feel like I'm also, like, learning new things as well within, like, the audience as well. So it's interesting to hear all these new thoughts. Not new thoughts, but thoughts, things we should be doing. And just,
Things to keep in mind.
yeah.
I agree. Alright. That's it. Thank you.
That's
good?
a wrap.
Woo!
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.